go talk to him.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. Just go talk to him. Hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And it's that simple. Like, nobody needs to have all this peer support training and whatever. It's just go talk to him.
Yeah.
So we are freaking good at running out that door and going and dealing with complete strangers, but dang it, can we be a little bit better?
Yes.
There's a protocol for that.
Yes.
Being a bit sarcastic, but in a way,
yeah,
I can avoid the real feelings with the people I encounter on calls. I can't avoid it when it's my crewmate.
So we are a species that is capable of reflecting on the past and planning for the future. That's amazing. But the problem has become, even at this very moment that you and I are talking, part of you is not here, part of me is not here. I'm thinking about what's coming after and what happened earlier this morning and this and that. So, but the reality is that the moment I came to this room and said hi, and the moment I will leave and say goodbye, they don't exist. The only real moment in my life and your life is this very moment, which is very safe. So this mindfulness basically uses our senses, bring us to here and now, which is reality from the la-la land where the pains are.
One joke you hear amongst probably anyone in corrections is we'll say when it comes to first responders or law enforcement, corrections officers are the redheaded stepchildren. It's a forgotten group of people, and I kind of understand because we're not out in the front. Even with dispatchers, right, they're making the phone call, so their voices are there. They're part of all the action. When all that is said and done, and maybe you have someone that needs to be arrested, they go to the correctional facility, and then the story stops, and then it's the cops and fire and EMS and everyone, they're off to the next run.
Yep.
No one knows what happened to that individual that, is not going to make the streets until a year later.
Yeah, it was tough. I took a call, a 911 call. It was on my grandfather. My uncle was the caller. He was there with him. He had collapsed and he had a seizure. At the time, I didn't know what that was. I just knew that my grandfather was down. Mm-hmm. So as a dispatcher, there's minimum manpower requirements. Somebody always has to be there to man the radio, man the phones. I couldn't just get up and leave. When we were at minimum manpower that day, I get the information. I walk him through what I need to walk him through. I dispatch the fire department. They respond. And then, after the fact, then I try to find coverage for somebody to come in, and then I can go and deal with my family matters.
I'm fighting for custody of my beautiful daughter. And I kept thinking, she's not even going to remember who her dad was. She's not going to know how much I loved her. And then with this stress, my stepfather, who was my hero, he's the reason why I went into law enforcement. He gets diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer at 58. He dies months later. I start getting repeated skin cancer diagnoses, which I know are a result of stress. And my drinking is getting out of control. And literally it gets to the point where I want to die.
Communication is definitely extremely, extremely important, but so is the trust. You have got to have trust in one another from the get-go. This is the long-haul situation.
Can you handle 24 hours home alone and he's not talking to you? He's not calling.
You might not be able to.
Yeah,
might not be able to, right? Yeah.
I know that nowadays it's a little bit easier, but we went with 24 hours. And then you guys always seem to have some extra job. So now you're not 24, you're heading into an extra 12 hours.
There's most days they don't see me for 36 hours.
Yeah.
Because I work that second job. But
it's very
trust
common.
And communication, if you don't have those two things, forget everything else.
And the trust is built.
Looking back on it, nobody checked on me. Nobody called. Nobody said, hey, do you need time? Do you need somebody to talk to? Anything. It was nothing. I was just expected to come right back into work less than 6 hours later and do my job. And I did. Other calls that happened after that I had normally handled before without incident or without any problem, but they happened so fast after that first one. There was shootings and carjackings. There was an officer got shot on my channel. There was one got ran over. By that fifth one, I knew something was wrong. I asked for a break and I walked outside and I was just like, I can't clear my head. And I remember my supervisor coming out and screaming at me just immediately, not asking, what's wrong or anything. She said, we're short-staffed. And I said, I understand that, but I just need a break. I need to clear my head.
I started out in this profession 100 years ago, like I said. And I remember my first FTO gave me a pair of black leather gloves, sunglasses, and a T-shirt that said, suck it up. I had that philosophy probably till about 8-9 years ago. I had to sit in on a officer resiliency course. We're sharing experiences, and I had a coworker who I've known for 15 years. One of the greatest guys in the world told a story about how he got to rock bottom, and he was sitting on his bedroom floor with his gun in his mouth, and he contemplated ending it. And I never, ever thought that this guy would ever say anything like that. it kind of dawned on me that, hey, this stuff's true. This is what's happening.
I'm at a point now in my life where I'm spending a lot of time with a lot of retirees. Mm-hmm. And it's concerning to me and how many of our retirees haven't dealt with it their whole career. So now, you talk about that 7, 10, 12, 15, 30-year veteran when you're that new guy, and they just go through the motions, and they almost to the point where we start dehumanizing people, and that can be very dangerous because now you don't have there's no emotions left. There's no emotional connection to calls for service or helping out your fellow human being in their time of need. And we get through this retirement, we go out and 6, 8 weeks, a month, a year, 6 years into it, you realize, holy crap, I didn't deal with any of this stuff in my career. Now here I am, and I got some things I got to do.
Yeah, my biggest surprise was, first of all, that they were worried about me at all. I thought I put things into play. I thought I did all the right things or things to make sure that they were more comfortable. Talked about my training, brought them to the station, made sure they had dinner with me, saw where I slept. All the things that I was hoping would make them more comfortable. It did. It made them more comfortable, but I literally thought they'd stop worrying about it.
But to you, it's like, see, I did that. Now I've eliminated the worry. To them, they're like, no, you've reduced it significantly.
Sure,
but you
I've
can't
helped,
take
but
it all
it doesn't
away.
matter. You can't take it all away. Hence the reason why, have a safe day or I love you, not have a good day. It's just make it home.
You have to understand that these people, sometimes they're in the worst situations that they can be in. Maybe you just got off the phone call and maybe your girlfriend broke up with you or she told you she's not coming to see you or she's not bringing the kids up. And then I come up to you and say, hey, man, it's time to lock down. Mind you, you're 20 years older than the officer, and now he's telling you to go to your room.
Yeah.
And so understanding, just kind of the temperature that some of those folks that you're carrying, where they're at, it helps you be a little bit more compassionate. It helps you be a little bit more understanding.
As people are walking up to you, you actually move out of the way for them. Right. Because it just instinctively you go, oh, this person's coming at me. I need to move out of the way.
There's enough reality around them to where I'm giving them physical space.
Yes, I caught myself moving out of their way. And one time I stood still and I was waiting for them. I was waiting to feel.
You know the movie Ghost?
Yes.
Where I feel like that. I'm like, nothing happens, but I feel like I got to brace myself.
But they're not real.
You're right. But quote unquote. You quote unquote
right?
know, but your body reacts because you have enough real information around it to make it feel like there's physics to this thing.
I have battled depression a good chunk of my life. And I've had people come up to me and they're like, you really shouldn't talk about that. That might cost you votes. I'm like, are you serious? I'm like one of my top things that I fight for is mental health funding. I was like, we need to be talking about these things.
You can still do your job and go have depression.
Yeah. And I just thought it was interesting that they felt it would cost me votes. And I'm like, if somebody's not going to vote for me because of that, talking about it was making sure that people knew it was okay to talk about these things. Like, to me, that's more important than a vote. Point.
It started out messy. I mean, we can't lie about it. It was messy with the texts and the screaming, and I'm totally, for it. You're frustrated. I'm now home alone. What happens when you guys go 24 hours? The roof's leaking, the electricity's out. I got to do the trash. I'm taking the garbage. I'm shoveling the walks. I'm doing, and you're just like.
That's when the kids get sick. That's what,
exactly. I'm covered in puke all night long, and then I'm expected to go to work the next day and be like, oh, hey, babe, I'm so happy to see you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. One of the surveys the IAFF did a couple years ago, what they did was they really wanted to look at the suicide numbers. They did an anonymous survey of 1,000 active and retired firefighters. What they found was absolutely shocking. Out of those 1,000 active retired firefighters, 50%, let that sink in, 50% said that they had thoughts of suicide. Of those 50%, 16% had actually attempted suicide, which is, for the general public, is somewhere between 2 and 9%. Mm-hmm. And we were at 16%. They asked people, why didn't you go seek help? 92% of those 1,000 firefighters said the reason they didn't go get help was the stigma that was attached to mental health and suicide. 92%.
So as a police officer, so you respond to calls for service, right? They call in the dispatch. Dispatch sends you to a call. You're responding to call for service. You're assessing situations. You're rendering aid. Maybe you're enforcing the law because somebody's violating a law or something like that. And when you're done with that call, you have a chance to disengage. Correction officer, if you're in charge of a housing unit with strategic inmate management, you're inside the housing unit with them. You are the provider of all of their needs: meals, medical care, information outside, facilitating visits, all of that. So think about the stress of trying to manage a unit for 8 or 16 hours with 30 to 64 people where you are their connection to the outside and all the services they need to meet their basic needs. Oh, yeah, and by the way, you have your own responsibilities to make sure the place is secure, it's clean, all those things. So there's a different kind of stress.
The first thing is we just don't know how to talk about it. At the firehouse, we could talk about a lot of things, but we don't know how to talk about if something bothers us or makes us look weak or whatever it might be.
When is it not appropriate? Let's get into that. I think that's what most first responders want to know is like,
is it ever not appropriate? I don't know.
And before we hit record, I told a couple jokes to give Dr. A little bit of a piece of what's on our mind, just to kind of see what he thought was a off-color joke or not. But, when is it appropriate or not for our first responders?
Be aware of your social circumstances. These days, cell phones are there, and everybody can get a video of you or whatever it is, or the conversations that you have. Probably you have lots of codes between you and your partner in there, and you can talk about, joke about, laugh about, cry about, all that.
Yeah.
But when it is taken out of context, then it's a different story.
Yeah.
And many times things are out of context.
Coming from the first responder side, I think some of the things have gotten better, but I think part of the initial resistance to that is, well, I don't want somebody that my boss is employing to know this information about me. I don't want to volunteer this information because how's that going to affect my job? Am I going to get fired? Am I going to get put on leave? Am I going to get passed over for a promotion? Am I going to get disciplined on something that now I am sharing to try and help my mental health? But how is that going to impact me? And I think the process has gotten so much better. And I think early on, I think we just needed time to prove that that wasn't the case.
And why did you really go? What did you tell them? Were you there for marijuana use, or were you still like telling yourself that wasn't the issue?
Yeah, I kind of played it off, to be honest. It was like, yeah, I did a bunch of cocaine, which cocaine was never, I had dabbled but never bought it.
Did you feel like marijuana was too weak of a drug to seek help?
100%.
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel like that
100%.
drug certainly gets its rap that it's like, remember the movie Half-Baked?
I'm here today because I'm addicted to marijuana.
You in here for some marijuana? Marijuana? Man, this is some bullshit.
And it's funny because,
is.
You compare it to meth and all these other things, and you kind of don't give it the credit that it's due.
Yeah, and you're right. It was embarrassing. It's like you want a cooler story, but it's like, hey, now I'm just being honest. Like,
Right.
yeah, it's not like hardcore, but it's the truth.
Funny enough, firefighter household, I don't know how many other people do this, but it's not have a good day. It's always, bye, babe, love you. Be safe.
Be safe.
Or be safe.
Yeah.
It's always, come home safe or keep everybody safe. It's never a have a good day or I'll see you at 5.
No goodbye is taken for granted.
No,
Yes.
it's a kiss before you leave, and it's a kiss, and we've come over the years. It's a kiss and hug when you get home. It's it's that reconnect.
One of the hard things for dispatchers is when you're involved in a serious incident and that incident ends, or it may end for the dispatcher while the officers are out there on the scene and then they're doing their thing out there. It doesn't stop for dispatchers. As soon as that ends, you're on to the next one, and then you're on to the next one, and you're on to the next one. Where, a police officer or firefighters, they're dispatched to the scene, they get out on the scene and they're out there, and it may take them hours to handle it. We don't have that downtime. Or when a police officer finishes a scene, they're coming into the police station, they're stopping at 7-Eleven and getting a Slurpee, and then they go in and they do their report and they get some wind down time. Dispatchers don't have that. It's from one thing to the next, nonstop.
I just gotten out of the FBI Violent Crime Task Force, so I was a crime scene technician. What do you do as a crime scene technician? You go document all the crappy stuff. Well, I found that after work, I was going home, and I instead of my normal 2 cocktails, it turned into 4 or 5, and I started remembering the things of a 25-year career that had nothing to do with that day's work. I mean, just bringing stuff back that there's no reason it should have came back. At that point, I kind of just realized this is real. This stuff's not made up. It's real. Thankfully, I didn't have to get to the point where I was on my bedroom floor with a gun in my mouth to realize that in 1 week, we see more than everybody sees in their lifetime. And it affects us. It's real. There's no reason that we should have to relive that over and over and over.
So why is AR better than VR for clinical therapies?
Multiple reasons. Number one is that you have to create the whole environment of context, right? So, and VR has been used because it's an older technology. AR is very new. Because it's a more complicated technology, you have to be able to map the real world and overlay the unreal on the real. So in that sense, VR is good for when you need to create the whole environment. Let's say that for veterans, they had created VR scenarios of exposure to Iraq or Afghanistan war. So the whole environment was created, but you still are standing there using joystick. You get the dizziness, you get the headache, and because you know the environment is not real, it doesn't feel as real. With the AR, when it comes to the clinical environment, I see my therapist next to me. So there's a real human next to me. And then I see this other digital human and my brain gets confused. There are times that I really feel the confusion because I see the walls of this room, unreal becomes real.
What's your advice for handling that verbal assault?
It's a couple of things, and you learn this through experience and time. There's a couple of things. Number one, it's easier said than done, but you can't take it personal. And this is why I say you can't take it personal. I've had experiences where after years later, I run into guys on the street. They've told me they're going to do A, B, C, and X, Y, Z to me when they see me. Now, as a professional, you don't buy into that. You continue to treat them with dignity and respect. You treat them like a human being. And this crazy thing happens when you see them out at the local Kroger or Walmart. Cliff, hey, man, what's up? What's going on? They're reporting out, hey, man, I'm doing this. I got a job. I'm doing this. Yeah, but what was all that other stuff? Listen, man, we get bored in there sometimes, or we have bad days, and you guys are the ones that are there to take it out on, right? We don't have anyone else to take it out on.
What do they say? You take it out on the ones you love the most?
Take it out. And so, in a way, that's what it is. And so that's why I go back to the first thing. You can't take it personal.
And I'll admit this. It was very shitty of me when we moved up here and we started going into the centers around us. And I'm like, wow, they dispatch 300 calls a year. I did that in a night.
Right. Like, you're not kidding. Yeah.
They can't be dealing with the same shit that I did. But then I was talking to Kathy and I was like, wait a minute. Because she was telling me some of the stuff they dealt with. In these small towns, they know everybody. Like personally, that they're answering 911 calls for, and they know the police officers. Some of them they're related to, or the firefighters, or everything. There was one instance where a lady took 2 house fire calls back to back. She knew both of the families. Somebody died in one of the fires that she knew. She was in that center by herself for the rest of the night, so she had nobody to talk to.
If you go on bad runs and they don't bother you, there's something wrong with you. You know what I'm saying?
That's the third time we've heard that. In this room.
Yes.
Yeah. You know what bad runs are.
No, totally.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not affected, you're like Dexter. We need to talk.
Right. Yeah, you got bigger problems than that not bothering you.
Because you did say one thing earlier I want to say is never take for granted a hello or goodbye, whether you're the first responder or the significant other.
We have literally gone to bed so mad at each other, but there is no way in hell I'm leaving that house. I am not leaving without giving her a kiss goodbye. There's no way. I'm not sitting there in those few seconds that something might happen to me that I might have left regretting the fact that instead I'm going to be like, at least I had that last kiss with her.
Yeah.
And
it's the simple things we remember and appreciate.
Oh, most definitely.
It's that reentry too. He's coming in. It's that hug and kiss. You're back connecting, or you're back to like, hey, we're back to mom and dad, or Tracy and Scott, or whatever. We're back in this. Okay, what do you got to dump?
Once I kind of realized I needed that, I let her know. I'm like, hey, you know what? I just need you to acknowledge me when I come home. It's nothing big. Peck on the cheeks, fine. Just acknowledge me. For some reason, that's killing me. It took a little while to do that, and then as soon as she
we have some fun with it.
It took, quite frankly, an incident that really caused us to do a behavioral health training to also give me some insight in terms of staff wellness, where our staff responded to a call for service, domestic assault, mom and sister. Our staff respond, it's all on body cam. This guy's in behavioral health, mental health distress. He's got a knife going back and forth. Anyway, our staff brought him under control. Nobody got hurt. And 2 things jumped out at me. Our staff was able to do it because they believe in, at the end of the day, success is when everybody is safe, not just themselves. Mm-hmm. But we were failing from an administrative standpoint because we weren't providing them the right kind of mental health training to engage. And then we weren't providing them the support from a wellness standpoint because that's trauma for them, right? That's a life every day. They have these little micro traumas.
The one thing that kept me dispatching in the same department for 25 years, I had a pension and I had retiree health care. If it wasn't for that, I would not have stayed there 25 years. I was burned out. And I think that's why, one, you see such a high turnover in dispatch centers, and number two, you can't hire anybody right now. Prior to me leaving, years ago, a dispatch list would be 50 to 100 people. Now we're getting under 10. Right. And out of the 10, half of them can't pass a background check. And out of the 5 that we might get, you might get 2 or 3 that can actually do the job and want to stay.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In addition to that, you can't just walk in and train somebody in 2 weeks, they're up and running in dispatch. You're talking 6 to 9 months of training.
I believe it.
Dispatch.
Yeah. And this isn't just happening in dispatch. We saw this in the fire service. We're seeing this in law enforcement. We're seeing all of this. In simplest terms, break down what augmented reality is.
Advanced augmented reality technologies combine real and unreal. So when you wear the augmented reality goggles, you're not disconnected from your real world. When I wear those goggles, I will still see all the 3 of you. I'll see the walls of this room. And then a digital human might be standing between Jeff and this camera in front of me. So that provides the opportunity for us to be in our real world, not be disconnected in the real world context, walk around on our own feet, see my own body, which makes it feel a lot more real. I don't see a virtual body of myself when I lift my hands. I see my real hands. I see real people around me. In that sense, it's a lot more immersive, a lot more realistic, and feels very real.
Laughter is a kind of meditation because you're not thinking about anything else. Mindfulness is not thinking about anything, right?
We're going to sit around long enough and laugh. We're going to write it up for mindfulness training
It
at
is
work.
part of mindfulness. You can be laughing and you can be crying, both.
And I want to make clear to our listeners that we are not saying that you are going to forget someone.
No.
That you need to get over someone. You may never get over.
This isn't about that.
I hope you never forget someone that's significant to you. This is not that process. But you will have to create a life for yourself after losing this person. And that may be tough.
The people at home don't care that you were a firefighter. Right. What they care about is how much time you spent with them, how many memories you made. But they more care about who's mom at home, who's dad at home, how much time we hang out with them.